Hey guys, it's Comic Quiz, here to bring another comic review, and today I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man Noir, issues 1 to 4. So, you may be wondering, why am I reviewing Spider-Man Noir? So, for those of you who know, or some of you don't know, is that on Sunday, I think it was Sunday, Marvel had this whole big promotion where 700 of their 700 titles would have their issue 1s free of charge. You wouldn't have to pay for them, just be free. So from this I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Maybe I could read some previous, like maybe some old school issues of previous series, like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, that I hadn't read. So I thought, like, yeah, I would probably read like Spider-Man Noir, because I heard about it a couple of years ago, and I heard that was pretty good and everything. That it was a different take on Peter Parker. So I was like, okay, I'll read it. So after reading issue 1, I was like, alright, I have to get the other 3 issues, so I just had to pay for those. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. It was amazing, to say the least. It was a very unique twist on the origins and the origins of Peter Parker as Spider-Man, because in this take on it, it's based in the early 1930s, 1933 to be exact, during the Great Depression in America. And pretty much, yeah, people were feeling the effects of it. There's so much poverty, there's so much corruption, which is a key element in this series. And overall, we get Peter Parker. Unlike his normal unlike his regular counterpart, this Peter Parker is angry, and I mean angry. He's a young, angry guy because, first and foremost, Uncle Ben's dead. We don't see how he dies, well, we do actually, but he's already dead at the start of this issue. And the reason why is because he, along with Aunt May, they were like, there was elderly couple who would also try and speak up against corruption, speak up against these gangs, these corrupt politicians, always holding rallies, saying how they should not be oppressed, how people, especially the poor, shouldn't be oppressed, shouldn't be living in this kind of conditions, that they deserve better, and things like that. But along the way, this came in contrast with the Goblin, who is Norman Osborn, and in this universe, unlike him being a scientist and a businessman, he's a businessman in a way, but he's a criminal. He's pretty much the biggest gang lord in New York, pretty much like the kingpin of this series. So yeah, eventually he crosses paths with the Goblin, and eventually the Goblin's like, you know what, I want this guy taken out, and he has Uncle Ben killed in the most horrible way possible, which I will get into later on. So yeah, as a result, this Peter Parker is angry. He is just angry. He's very idealistic, yet he's very passionate about what Uncle Ben may have taught him about justice, things like how public officials serve the people and not the people serving them, things like that. So yeah, along the way he crosses paths with Ben Urich, who is a photographer for the Daily Bugle. And Ben Urich, he kind of has this attachment to Peter Parker. He sees this idealism in him, and he also sees the anger, and he sees that Peter Parker could become a great person, somebody of real importance. So he kind of takes him under his wing. So he gets him a job at the Daily Bugle, and pretty much Peter starts following Ben Urich around, pretty much helping him with photography work. And along the way, he starts showing Peter the real effects of the Depression, that everything's not as rosy and dandy. Things like, oh, the politicians serve the people, like, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. That everything's not as black and white as it seems. That and Peter learns a lot. Everything he thought that he knew, he does. Ben Urich shows him that he doesn't. He shows him the back alleys, how much poverty there really is in New York. Then he takes him to the Black Cat, which is owned by Felicia Hardy, who's a club owner in this universe. And apparently she was engaged to Ben Urich, but along the way their relationship broke down for reasons which will be mentioned later. So yeah, he takes him to the Black Cat, where he shows Peter that it's where in the Black Cat you see the chief of police, who was with several women, like several women, and saying how none of them are his wives. And look, you can see what he's doing. He saw the mayor of New York, and he was in a seedy place like that. You think somebody like of his position would know better, or be doing better, but nope, he's corrupt as hell. Just like, in a way, similar to what happened in Batman Begins, where we see Falcone taking Bruce Wayne into his club, and then we see Judge Faden and the mayor of Gotham all in that same seedy club. So Peter, he starts seeing all this, and he's shocked. He's saying, like, how can people do this? That it's ridiculous. And moments later, the Goblin, Norman Osborn, walks in. So yeah, he's a frequent visitor of that club. Peter sees him and he's like, this guy, he really pisses me off. Then Ben's like, why do you hate him so much? He's like, yeah, he's the one who killed my uncle. I don't have proof, but I know he did. And Ben Urich, he says, like, he thinks in his mind that he knows all too well that it was the Goblin that did it. And the reason was because he was actually there. And he saw how he was cannibalized, because in this universe, the Vulture works for Norman Osborn. Craven the Hunter and some other guy's name I can't remember, they all work for him. They're all his, like, hired muscle. And they're all, in this universe, described as circus freaks. Especially the Vulture, because he is an animal. He cannibalized Uncle Ben. He literally had him, first, the Goblin had him beaten, then he had the Vulture pretty much eat him alive. And that's how he died. Brutal, right? So, yeah, Norman Osborn sees Peter, while he sees Ben Urich, starts talking, then he sees Peter, then he starts talking to him, my condolences and everything. You know, he doesn't really mean it, but I heard your uncle was attacked by wild dogs. So then then Peter's like, no, he was attacked by you and your thugs. So he gets a bottle of whiskey and chucks it on him. So yeah, eventually Peter gets chucked out for being immature. So Ben Urich continues telling him that you shouldn't be doing that, that you've now made yourself a target for the Goblin. So yeah, Peter continues working for Ben Urich, seeing more seedy dealings in the city, thinking that, yeah, that something really needs to be done. And another thing that I really liked about this is the whole quote, because in the normal universe, Uncle Ben told Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. But in this universe, Uncle Ben told Peter, like, if the people can't rely on people in power, it's down to the people to remove the people in power, which is something that plays a big part in this universe. Which Ben Urich's like, yeah, that's great and everything, but it's not really gonna get you anywhere. Then later on, Peter finds out that Ben Urich isn't all holy and just as he's been portrayed. We find out that Ben Urich is an alcoholic and a drug addict, but not only that he works for the Goblin himself, and that he's had information that could send the Goblin to prison, but he's just kept it to himself. And as a result, the Goblin pays him to keep quiet about this. So Peter's pretty much disgusted at Ben Urich, and he's like, he doesn't want to have anything to do with him. But before he leaves, he finds out that Ben Urich's informant called, but Ben wasn't around at the time, so Peter answers the phone, and he gets an address to a warehouse where the Goblin's men are going to be getting some antiques that were meant to go to a museum, but they're going to be stealing them. So Peter goes on his own, and he goes to find out what's going on. Then we find this spider statue that the Goblin wants, but it breaks, and spiders crawl out of it and pretty much start and eat one of the Goblin's henchmen. One of these spiders works its way up to Peter, who's hiding, and it bites him. Then Peter has this hallucination where he sees this giant spider saying, my bite won't kill people with just cause, but it will only give them the curse of my power. And that's how he gets his spider powers. So from this, Peter, he learns how to use his powers relatively quickly. He realizes that he has the power, and he remembers that quote, if those in power can't be trusted, it's down to the people who are meant to remove them. So he uses that, and he decides to confront the Goblin, saying that either you stop what you're doing, or I will come and take you down personally. So Ben Urich is also there as Peter confronts the Goblin, but he's actually Peter's actually covering his face so no one knows. But he knew. But Ben, he gets so inspired by what Peter is doing that he decides he's going to turn in the Goblin. He's going to give the Daily Bugle the information that he's gathered over the years. So he calls J. Jonah Jameson. He's like, I've got this information, I need to see you. But J. Jonah's like, alright, you just wait there, I'll come and meet you. I don't want you on this street with that kind of information. So yeah, eventually he gets to Ben Urich's house. But we find out that J. Jonah Jameson's actually working for the Goblin as well. And he kills Ben Urich. But Ben Urich anticipated something like this would happen, so he already gave the information to Felicia Hardy to keep for safekeeping. So yeah, we see now that the Goblin's really got this seat under his thumb. He's got politicians, the mayor, J. Jonah Jameson, who is supposed to be all power of the press, speak the truth, all that nonsense. Yeah, he's been corrupted by the Goblin, which is something I wasn't expecting and what I really loved about this series. So yeah, continuing, Peter finds Ben Urich dead and he starts crying. He's like, no, not again, I can't lose somebody else. So he goes to see Felicia Hardy, where Felicia tells him that Ben said that I need to give you this information that he had on the Goblin, and that you can't give it to anybody, that only you can use it and use it to deal with the Goblin. So Peter's wondering, why can't I give it to the Daily Bugle? So at the funeral of Ben Urich's funeral, J. Jonah Jameson approaches Peter and asks him, did Ben Urich tell you anything? Because he was like working on a secret case, and I was wondering, did he mention anything about it to you? Which Peter's like, at first he's gonna say yes, but his spider sense went off, and he's like, wait, something's off about Jameson. So he's like, no, I wasn't giving anything. So yeah, he realizes that J. Jonah is corrupt as well. So he goes to see J. Jonah in his Spider-Man costume now, which is a pretty cool costume, by the way, very 1930s. So he goes to see him, but he found out that J. Jonah's already dead. Somebody got to him, and Peter, who's been framed for this, not Peter actually, Spider-Man's been framed for this. The police come in, they think that he killed J. Jonah, but he eventually escapes. So meanwhile, we find out that the Goblin actually replaced J. Jonah with the Chameleon, and he's going to try and get he's trying to keep J. Jonah hidden away, get Felicia Hardy and Peter Parker, who he thinks that Ben Urich might have hidden, given the information that he's got on him with one of them. So he orders the Vulture to go and get Peter, but Peter's not home, and instead he finds Aunt May there, who he's about to kill, but Peter stops him. So Peter kills the Vulture, which Aunt May starts screaming, saying, why would you do that? The newspapers say you have webbing, why can't you use your webbing? You didn't need to kill him. Then Peter's shocked, like, why are you getting angry at me? I just saved your life. But Aunt May, she's like, just because you saved my life, you think I'm going to say thank you? You killed somebody. I refuse to live in a world where people just do as they please, where people just kill each other without cause. And Peter's shocked by this. He's like, you don't understand. So he just leaves and he goes to take on the Goblin once and for all. So yeah, eventually he saves Felicia and J. Jonah, and he fights the Goblin. And we find out the reason why he's called the Goblin is because underneath his face is actually a mask. He's actually looks like an actual goblin, just like the way his mask in the 616 universe looks, but it's actually his real face. And we find out that he was actually a circus freak, and people called him the Goblin as a way to insult him. But now, when people use the name Goblin, it's a way to address him with respect and also show they have fear for him. So eventually, the Goblin's like, alright now, you know who I am. You've got me pinned down. Either you kill me or I'll continue doing what I'm doing. But Peter's like thinking about it. Should I kill him? Should I kill him? But then he remembers Aunt May's words and he's like, no, I'm not a killer. You're gonna suffer for what you've done. But as he tries to walk away, the Goblin tries to kill Peter. But the spiders that came out of that, the spiders that gave Peter his powers, well, the Goblin earlier had them collected and put in a glass case. Well, they broke out of that glass case and they attacked the Goblin and ate him. And that was how the Goblin died. So, yeah, the Goblin situation was sorted. J. Jonah, now knowing the error of his ways, Peter gives him the information, and As a result, he exposes the truth about the mayor being corrupt, head of police being corrupt, and all these things. And pretty much New York City things start improving. Poverty starts reducing, crime levels drop, and also things pretty much seem to be on the up. So also before it ends, Peter goes to visit Felicia, who knows he's Spider-Man now. So he wants to know, why did she leave Ben? Because we find out earlier on that the Goblin and Felicia had some kind of relationship, and was that the reason why her and Ben broke up? But she refused to explain, saying it's none of his business. So yeah, in the end we see Peter. He's on the Empire State Building with his resolve, realizing that with his powers he's gonna save the city, that he's gonna take down anybody who tries to corrupt it, and that he officially declares himself Spider-Man. And yeah, that's where the issue ends. This series was amazing, to be honest. I loved it. I loved the new direction, the different tone it was, because it was very dark. Unlike what we usually get with Spider-Man. Peter Parker was similar, but in a way different. He was angry. He was very idealistic, very hopeful for a better tomorrow. But he just didn't have a way to do it. And his anger was weighing him down in a way. But with his powers, and especially with that quote, which I really loved, which I've said twice already, if those in power can't be trusted, it's up to the people to remove them, which I really loved, and it really suited this whole series and the message it was trying to portray. I also loved the historical accuracy with the whole Great Depression, also at the end it mentioned something about the Nazis gaining power and everything, and leading up to the whole World War II thing, which is what I really loved. Historical accuracy, you gotta love it, right? Also, I really loved the whole different interpretations of characters like Ben Urich, who's usually associated with Daredevil and everything. I loved him. He was a key player in this series. I really liked Aunt May. She's pretty much the same character who she usually is, but she's much more of a public speaker. Somebody who won't stand for corruption and will speak out. And in a way, it's probably what Aunt May would actually really be like if they live in a time period like the 1930s. Also, like Felicia Hardy's character, a club owner as opposed to being a wealthy heiress and everything. Really liked her character, and the Goblin being a kingpin. His character was pretty vicious, and the different take on these spy members like the Vulture, Kraven the Hunter, being circus freaks but being brutal. In particular, the Vulture, I'm glad Peter killed him, because he was messed up. I mean, he cannibalized Uncle Ben. Ate the guy. It was pretty sick. But I really loved it. The story was amazing. The artwork was amazing. I loved the dark tones, showing the whole darker feel to it. And I really loved his costume in this, because his costume was made up of an the Air Force uniform, kind of like a black kind of get up with a black long coat, boots, black trousers, and then he made up his own mask with goggles. I loved it. I loved the costume. It was like one of my favorite costumes, to be honest. It was amazing. And also I liked Peter's much more darker personality, whereas normal Peter Parker wouldn't go to extreme lengths, like to kill, to protect. He killed the Vulture, which is something I really liked. So that this character, even though he is pretty similar to the Peter Parker we know, he is also different. He will go further than that Peter has to in order to protect people. So overall, I give this a 9.5 out of 10. Amazing. Brilliant. If you have not read Spider-Man Noir, go out and read it, because it is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, guys, that's it for this review. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments down below. Also, tell me, what did you get from Marvel's free 700 issue number ones? What did you think of Spider-Man Noir if you got it? And definitely go pick it up. It's amazing. You can't miss it. You shouldn't miss it. It is a brilliant story that has to be read. So yeah, I give it a 9.4 like I said. And this has been Comic Quiz reviewing Spider-Man Noir issues 1 to 4. See you later, guys.